What's my motivation, Mr. Preminger?
Welcome, Uncle Sugar Magic Circus. Taking a bit of a hiatus here for a little while, right? It's been a weird year.
Yeah.
I started a new job, whatever, excuses. But,
Excuses or what?
Well, they're like...
Lies!
They are lies. That's Jocko Willnick, one of my favorite guys on podcasts.
He has a real podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Keith. So, Keith, I know we have a letter. It's from a very important person this time, actually.
Yeah, it's a very odd letter, and, you know, as usual, letters keep coming. I started doing something. We got some money coming. I started recycling the letters. We get so much. And now, I took them pickup truck at a time to the dump, and now they won't take anymore. So I'm taking too many letters, and it's too much paper. I can't process it. I don't know what the fuck it is. Anyway, it's an interesting letter. It says, Dear Mike and Steve, I've heard your TV show, and despite its depictions and other things, I'm not sure. However, I told them regardless. These are the real issues affecting Middle America. It is the reason Congress has taken all the groceries back and forth again. Well, Tuesday. Your pal, Joe Biden.
So, okay, you think we can dig some kind of a topic out of that somewhere?
Oh, man.
Oddly enough, yeah. Because that's all over the map, and so is this guy. Literally and figuratively. Because our guest today, Mohammed Sharif, has done a lot of interesting things. So, Sal, what do you got?
Yeah, so, you know, we have had one show so far on Corpsman.
Yeah.
But Corpsman is such an integral part of the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, there's no unit that deploys that doesn't have a Corpsman with them.
Yeah.
And so we think it's important to keep highlighting some of these guys that have done, you know, some interesting things. And HM2 Sharif, we call him Showtime. He's done a lot of very interesting things.
Yeah.
So we generally try to start the show out by kind of getting a feel for where you come from, what your background is, how you ended up joining the Navy. So I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And it's funny because it's nothing. Everything that happened in my career happened accidentally, man. I'm a very go with the flow guy. I grow and I grew up in Coral Springs, Florida, which is it's a pretty populated town. It gets more and more populated by the minute. But I just wanted to get out of there, man, just like a lot of people wanted to leave. And there was nothing for me. You know, I did the typical high school stuff. I played some football, you know, I hung out, snuck out, did the same thing. I wasn't a genius. I wasn't really good in school. So I just, there was some Army guys, you're not in the Army, right? I want to make sure I'm not offending anybody. But there was some Army guys in the hallway, and they were like, hey, you want to join the Army? I was like, dude, I don't know you. He was like, do you speak languages? I'm like, I speak all dialects of Arabic, bro. He's like, we want you. I'm like, I don't want you. So he came to the house, and you know, my dad was like, that guy will never come here again. And then a Marine came to the house. He was very professional, but when he left, my mom was like, he was cute, you need to join that branch. And I was like, she was like, they look very professional. I was like, Mom, it's not about that. And then the sailor came, and I have a background in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Navy, my uncle was in the Navy.
Where?
They're in the Egyptian Navy.
Yeah.
So,
which is interesting in and of itself.
Yeah, sure.
So we knew the Navy life, and they came, you know, with the white on white back then, and you know, it's just like we were wooed. We were like, whoa. And they came to a couple of my football games, whatever. I never went to any of these, you know, DEP PT sessions that they do. I never went to any of that. He was like, hey, this day I'm coming to get you. And I knew it was the right service because he said he was coming to get me on Saturday, and he didn't come till Sunday. So I was like, maybe it's working out. But other than that, it was good. My boot, you know, I was very athletic in high school. I've always been, you know, lifting, football, whatever. So boot camp was really a breeze for me. It really was. The funny part about this, when I joined the Navy, I wasn't actually a corpsman. I was a CTI, cryptotech intelligence. I was
no kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But
because of the Arabic, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I had this huge bonus that I was really looking forward to. I was going to buy my Benz. I was going to do all that fancy stuff. But security clearances, because if you're from our cultures, our countries, if your parents are citizens, you automatically get citizenship, so that you can get some certain clearances. So we were in boot camp, and I was on hold in boot camp, and they were like, "Hey, you want to be a corpsman?" I was like, "Listen, man, I don't like guns. I don't like fighting. What is that?" He's like, "It's just medicine." I was like, "Fantastic, I'll do it. I'll work at a hospital." And then I ended up in Field Medical Training Battalion, which I happen to work right now. And they're like, "Hey, you're going to be with the Infantry Marines." And I was like, guess this is what we're doing now. I guess this is what we're doing.
Nice.
And I did get offered to go back to be a crypto tech, but
Yeah.
I'm too invested in being a corpsman now. I don't see myself doing anything else, so
Yeah.
just stayed in it.
So you get out of boot camp. You got to go through your corpsman training.
A school back then it was in Great Lakes, right across from boot camp.
Okay.
Yeah, that changed now, but it was in the blizzards. It was pretty.
How'd that work out, Mr. Florida?
I stayed inside. I stayed inside a lot. I would just run to the chow hall and then I would come back and just sit inside. Go to the gym. It wasn't bad at all. It was about 3.5, 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got orders out of there. I mean, young love. I was in love in high school, so I wanted to be near my girlfriend at the time. So I studied, and I got second pick in the class, so I picked Jacksonville, Florida. And I was at the hospital there. I was an anesthesia tech actually. I became an anesthesia tech, so I was really good at IVs. And if you can, that's how I got really good with the Marines, because I was really, really good at IVs, and they're really good drinkers. So,
For those of you who don't know, sometimes I've heard in the barracks on a Sunday morning, the corpsmen are giving IVs to everybody in the platoon to assuage their hangovers.
So let's be.
you're not wrong.
Well, let's take it back a step, right? Because it's really good training, right?
Oh, it is good
It's
training.
really good training for the corpsman. You got to keep his skills up, right?
It was good. It was good. And then after that, so I walked to the PX, and like I said, everything is accidental in my life. So I walked into the PX in Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida, and there was all these chiefs, and of course, since day one at boot camp, you see the anchors, you see the gold, and I'm like, I want to be that guy. And they all had, caduce, they're all corpsmen, some of them were in dress blues, and I was like, what do you guys do? And he was like, we're Prev Med. And I was like, how do I do that? I want to do that. I mean, it's 10:30 and you're in the PX, and just chilling in the lounge. Like, you're doing something right with your career. So I want that job.
So what is that?
So I'll get to that. So he told me to bring my evaluation, and I went to see him. And that's a preventive medicine technician in the Navy, a PMT. And pretty much what you're in charge of on the Marine side of the house is you get the battalion ready to deploy when it comes to medical readiness. That falls on your responsibility. Anywhere between tuberculosis screening to vaccinations to, everything.
Yeah.
All the way to barracks inspection and water treatment. So I didn't know. I thought PM stands for preventive maintenance, like I was going to be a biomed guy. Accidentally, and I go there and they sign my
Yet again.
and I go to this school in San Antonio for 7 months. So back then, I moved my wife and we go to San Antonio. Beautiful place, loved it. And day one, I remember this guy, his name was Chief Wallen. He was like, if you're here, you're really smart or you're really lucky. And that's how I introduced myself. I was like, hey,
I'm lucky.
I'm lucky. Definitely not the smart guy. But it worked out for me, You get to do a lot of entomology stuff. You play with bugs, you do water. I liked it. And it's side by side with the Army as well. So that's where I got in the field. And then they're really short in infantry for division for those guys. So And that's how I, after one duty station as a Prev Med, I ended up in Lejeune. And I've been here since, 8, 9 years now?
Yeah.
And what kind of units have you been assigned to? What have you been a captain?
Only Victor. So I was with my first infantry unit was 2-8, America's Battalion. I love it. That place is home for me, and that's where I actually got all my FMF qualifications. I went to 8th Reg for a short amount of time, and then the first class that was with me in 2-8, he made chief, and he went over to 2-2. Again, there wasn't a lot of infantry preventive medicine over in division, so he's like, hey, and I was on deployment. Actually, he messaged me. I was in Romania, and he was like, hey, bro. I'm supposed to be going to Romania with 2-2. You want to come over? So I'm like, well, I'm in Romania right now. So I got back, and then 4 weeks later, I was back in Romania with him with 2-2. Then I came back, was there for about another year. Went to 2nd Reg, and it grew on me. Like, I knew that, and nothing against the Navy, I knew that being a blue side sailor is not for me. Like the Marines, the infantry, this is where I belong. So I tried my best making a lot of contacts to stay in the Lejeune area.
So let me take it back a notch. Just
Sure.
my job here, I'm the straight man, right? I gotta keep everybody on the educational path.
He's
right?
not really straight, but that's a
So let's talk about that for a second, because you said a couple of things in there that I think the audience, some of the audience will know, but some of the audience might be interested in in discovering how it works. So you said the blue side and the green side.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about the difference between the pathways that somebody in the Navy might be able to take in your field, right, in the medicine field, and how different it is to be, let's say, a hospital corpsman on the blue side or on the green side.
No, that's a very that's awesome point. So And the blue side in general, it's really relaxed. You know?
Yeah, and you're saying blue side means that you're working.
You're
for
with the
Navy.
Navy. Yeah, you're either at a hospital or you're at a clinic or you're
On
at
a
a
ship?
ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some squadrons, and it's not a bad thing. It's just you have that environment. Right? If you're on a ship, of course, that's a whole other ballgame. But mostly you're at a hospital or the clinic.
Yeah.
And you have a constant schedule, like a steady schedule, 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever. You work either the ward or you do vital signs for patient admin or it's whatever. It's simple and it's not bad. It's just it wasn't my cup of tea at the time. Then of course you convert and then you go to the green side and then you start spreading like you said in the beginning. We're with everything. So you either get to go to the wing, the logistics combat element, or the ground combat element, and then from there you just scatter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like bye Navy life for 3 years.
And it's not just a given. They don't just give you orders and off you go to the Marine Corps, right? There's
No,
actually
no.
a training pipeline for it, and you have to qualify to be able to go do it,
That's
right?
kind of where I work now.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about the training involved in
Yeah, what did you have?
you're
to
an
do?
instructor there right now. So
Well, I'm the course chief now. It was, yeah. So when I went through again, remember, no guns. I didn't want guns. I didn't like fighting.
ironic.
And back then it was different. It was much tougher. As the world progresses and time changes, the military changes. But back then it was pretty old school. And the first experience I had in field med, and you're gonna laugh at this. We went to when I was in boot camp. We worked with the Army, or not boot camp, prep med school. So we went to the range, and they had all these electronic ranges.
Yeah.
And then we go to Stone Bay with field med, and I walk back, and behind the berm, and Marines are just carrying the sticks. They're walking back and forth. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So it's everything changes. I do Marine Corps CFTs, PFTs, which the fitness tests, and it's just you become a Marine mentality.
Well, you wear Marine uniforms. You're embedded.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
So it's different, and you learn everything about the Marine Corps, but nothing really hits you until you enter that infantry unit because you're like, oh, snap, like this is real. But for everybody that goes, they're scared of the unknown. But once you go there, where have you been my entire life?
Right.
This is where I wanted to be.
Right. What's it like? What's the outside perspective of a Marine from somebody who shows up at a Marine Corps unit and is like, holy crap?
I was just talking to a student about this the other day.
Yeah.
War, gun, train, sleep in the field forever. That's what they think.
Yeah.
And I was like, you couldn't be more wrong. Bro.
Yeah.
First off, it's going to be more like field day, barracks, waiting on the range, waiting on the armory, hike, PT, whole bunch of free time with your Marines. Literally. And they were like, really? I'm like, yeah, who tells you this stuff? Like, stop watching TV, man. It's really not that bad at all.
Yeah,
like zero. Yeah, and it worked out.
Yeah.
And 2-8 was a definitely good battalion to start this whole transformation in because it was a very good battalion.
Now, where did you deploy with 2A? You've been in some weird places.
So, as a Prep Med, there's only one in you in the battalion.
Yeah.
So I was always with the command element. So the command element was in Romania. But I got to travel because, again, there's only one of me. So I got to go to Sigonella, Marone, Djibouti.
Lovely spot.
Yeah,
Camp Lemonade.
Bulgaria, Ukraine, country of Georgia, Norway. So it was pretty much every place to do the Black Sea Rotational Force and the Special Purpose MACDEFs all around. But it was really good. 2-8 was they had the warrior mentality kind of thing, and you could feel it like just in the whole environment. Like, hey, we're here to breed warriors, and I love that about 2-8.
Yeah.
And when you're in Romania with 2-8, they were training Romanian forces. So you guys were doing like partner forces with the Romanians for.
So it's stuff with them like in their country where they're located and the stuff that was going on with Russia and whatnot. So we're just preparing them for whatever comes, and it was good. They're all humanitarian missions, most of all, but a lot of them are just training exercises. They were very, very happy for us to be there and very upset when we left.
Yeah.
But they treated us really, really good. Other than the weather, I didn't even mind the cold weather. They were so nice. I'm like, I don't mind this at all. And I loved it. And I was there for 9 months, and then I went back 9 months, and then I went back for 9 months.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And then only other
And then you became
deployment
a
I had.
citizen.
Yeah. And the only other tour I have of that was
Oh, Romania, I get.
That's funny. I would get into it. Wasn't like that.
That's funny.
But these are my Marine tours. The only different tour I had was with the Army unit, and we were down at Guantanamo. And that was just a a different story.
Did you do that there?
Well, Prep Med.
Yeah.
I went Prep Med. I was there as a Prep Med unit expert, but I actually attached to 525th MP Battalion, the Army unit. It was different. You know, they weren't ready for a sailor, and I wasn't FMF at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just like, hey, who's this guy, and what does that little bird mean on your collar? Not a colonel. Not a colonel.
See how it's not shiny? Well, sometimes they are, though.
They are. Yeah, they are shiny. No, but it was a good experience. I didn't mind it. It was a whole bunch of diving, hiking, and nothing to do other than those things the next day.
Cool.
It wasn't bad.
So you get done with 2-8, then where?
This literally really nice. I call it the best B&B. It's called AP Hill. So I was in AP Hill for a couple weeks. Did some training. They decided to do that versus 29 Palms where I was with 2-8, and then they were like, hey, you know, we're going back to. They changed the name. It used to be called the Black Sea Rotational Force, and then they called it Special Purpose MACTAB.
Yeah.
Europe, whatever. So right back out there.
Yeah.
And then did the same travels, and nothing against you too. I love it. You know, America's Warlords are great, but it wasn't too late. It was different.
Yeah.
And I like 2-8 much more.
Yeah.
But it was good. I got a hang of it. I had good leadership. I had that good chief, which you met.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I was like, I really like this. And the Army was really helpful in that thing too. So we all worked together.
I can't let you off the hook. Well, how are they different? What do you mean?
They're different when it comes to mentalities. When it comes to Marines, like for us, it's like once you become an FMF corpsman with the infantry, you're it, man. You know, you're it. Like you and the Marines, there's no difference. You hang out with Marines, you chill with Marines. I mean, I lived with them, you know. And with the Army side of the house, it's much more relaxed, but way better funded. I'm just gonna throw that in there. Gonna throw that in there.
Shocking.
But it was. You could definitely tell. Like we definitely had a warrior mentality. Like, hey, we're even the medical training. You got one corpsman, and we're trained to do so much things.
Yeah.
But then you got Army guys, and because they have the manning and the funding, they have 6 guys specializing in 6 separate things. Mm-hmm. But then I got this lonely HN or HM3, and he was like, well, he can do all these things. Perfect. But it was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it. We worked with the Canadians and the Brits. It was pretty good.
So let me redirect. Your Honor, redirect.
Redirect.
So we talked about this with the last corpsman as well, but it's interesting to me because, you know, you just keep saying like you're the one corpsman with a large group of Marines, right? Mm-hmm. So the implication there is that you don't do everything. It's not like the movies, right? It's not like everything is corpsman up and then and then the corpsman's running around like a maniac all over the battlefield.
No, not at all.
You have to train those Marines 100%. How to do self-aid, buddy aid,
right?
Right? Combat lifesaver stuff.
Yeah.
And then you sort of manage that program, right?
Yep.
As a corpsman. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? How good are the Marines at, you know,
so, and it's funny
receiving that training?
It's funny you mentioned that because I was just talking to my students because, again, my students feel like all they heard about, you know, infantry or whatever and just what they're going to do. But I told them, I was like, listen, there's one of you, there's a crap ton of them. Utilize them. Spread your gear. Teach them how to do stuff. And the Marines that I met, or any Marine I met, actually, when I tell them, hey, dude, you're a rifle guy, you're going to be living in the sand and it's going to suck. But guess what? Now you're going to be able to do IVs, you're going to do this, and you gave them more, and they love it. Yeah. And they love it, and they're like, oh, I want to do that, and they ask questions, and they get really, really good at it because they're in there. Well, they want to learn how to do needle beads, IOs, all that stuff.
I mean, it's just common sense. I mean, Sal and I laugh about this when I was in recon. So, Corpsman came to me with an idea, and I said, it's a great idea. So, next day, there's my entire company out on the basketball court stabbing each other with IV needles. And the corpsmen from each platoon are just walking around. No, you did it wrong. So of course, it looks like these guys look like they're getting tattoos, they're getting so many needle marks. Girl comes by, says, "Keith, what are you doing?" I said, "Doc's teaching the men how to do IVs because the recon teams a million miles from nowhere, they don't have a corpsman with them, right. So they have to self-sustain." The corpsmen all understood this in a minute. They're like, "Hey boss, we need to teach these cats this stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yes.
And so
corpsman of the SARC would stay with the headquarters element. Yeah. The teams out in the field would have to do that.
And SARC corpsmen, that's just a whole other ballgame. They're super proficient at like every medical aspect they do. That's pretty much like the benchmark of where we we would love to be, but again, we're not at that level yet. But those I learned a lot from those guys too. I go over to second recon and talk to their docs all the time. Be like, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that?
Yeah.
So for our friends out there in TV land that are not in the military that watch our show, like put that in perspective. What is a corpsman equivalent to, let's say, in the civilian medical field? What is a SARC equivalent to?
Yeah, so, well, SARC, I mean, I'll probably ask you for some help for that. To me, an infantry corpsman in the civilian field is like a combat proficient trained paramedic
Okay.
that is going to get you in the ambulance, and he does not have an ETA on when you'll get to the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so he will have to do everything until they figure out what that ETA is and what the capabilities are.
Okay. And when you say everything, I'm not trying to like
No, that's fine.
put you on the spot here, but I don't think people really grasp because I heard you say needle
Needle Ds,
needle
yeah.
Ds, like
Needle throwing,
yeah.
just walk us through like the scope of what you're able to do at the corpsman level.
So that depends from garrison to combat.
Sure, yeah.
And when you're you're gonna save a life, you got to do whatever you can. So anywhere between, of course, you do your because you see wounds differently. You work at an ER and you might see constant. You get a bullet wound here or whatever. But this guy's you see amputations, you see I mean, you
Burns.
everything. You see
Yeah.
everything. So you have to have some kind of training in everything. So it's not just place a tourniquet, because something's always gonna go to, period. And you have to know what to do. You have to keep that person alive, and that goes hand to hand with what we're training students now, because now we're training students to actually sit on a patient longer and longer and longer.
Well, is that because the golden hour is no longer a viable option, or
Yep.
because we just can't get them out?
It goes into it between
Maybe we should explain what the golden hour is too.
the upcoming fields that we're going to be, the upcoming ops we're going to be in, the wars, the capabilities. Either you have flight capabilities or not. If you don't have flight capabilities, I can't get you to a hospital. If I can't get you to a hospital, what am I going to do? You're not going to die. So I got to be trained to either do, chest tubes, or you have to everything that's going to happen to that person when they get to the hospital. I kind of have to do right there
In the dirt.
in the dirt.
So what is the golden hour?
So the golden hour is you have once the patient is injured, you have between getting the patient off the X, taking them to a safe place where it's safe for that corpsman to operate, because sometimes you're being shot at while you're doing this.
Yeah.
You have and as it's called, you have that golden hour.
Yeah.
That hour is where you're gonna, in civilian terms, that person's gonna live or die.
Yeah.
And you have that 1 hour to operate, to make it happen.
And you're looking to stabilize.
100%. You're trying to. And sometimes,
Shoot for
a
shock.
tourniquet and shock is the hardest. Once you get into that shock, that's when things go crazy, because now you gotta, keep them warm, get fluids in them. You gotta do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Things that are difficult to
Yeah.
do out in the middle of nowhere with austere conditions, etc.
Yeah, and the capabilities too. I mean, I have a bag, a rucksack like the rest of the Marines. I have my rifle, I have my stuff, but I also have a med bag, and a bag could only be as big as you make it. I can't carry an entire ER in a bag,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna make it. That's why I said utilize your Marines. I could be like, hey guys, you carry this for me.
Yeah.
You carry this, and by the end of it, if you look at it, you got 6 or 7 Marines carrying stuff. I got almost 10 times the stuff I can carry by myself.
That's
Yeah.
It's all about working smartly.
Yeah.
And they don't care, because I'm like, yo, help me out, and they love that stuff. They want to help. They want to save their guys too.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
And that's
denied
what we teach.
airspace is a thing now, and the golden hour usually relied on helicopters.
Sure.
General rule.
Yeah, for extract.
Now we're in denied airspace operations. That golden hour is changing what you're teaching right now, because you and I have talked about this.
Yeah, and it's all to improve the corpsman. Honestly, it's all just better improvement. Now now you can be on a patient for 24, and it's not that's what's happening right now. That's what we're going to. You can sit on a patient for 24 up to 48 hours before you get some kind of helo or some kind of vehicle or whatever, something to help you out.
Yeah.
It might not even be a medical evacuation. It might be just a tactical evacuation. Just lift of opportunity. You got a flight. You got to go.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But
That's interesting. Yeah, and then when you get into, the interesting thing about being in the Marine Corps is, yeah, we go to combat, but I'd say the vast majority of what we do isn't combat, right? So there's the humanitarian aspects to where we go to a place, there's a component of the interaction with the locals that's, includes, health and trying to help people who live in really poor conditions, have access to some kind of health care.
Where are we again this week?
Yeah, back in Haiti.
Back in your old stomping grounds.
Yeah, back in Haiti.
Yeah.
After this earthquake, which is it's horrible. But so,
Mm-hmm.
did you have any experience with any kind of humanitarian interactions? with the local
Humanitarian. No, I
population?
have a lot of friends that that have been to Haiti, and they told me a lot of stories from the first Haiti's earthquakes.
Yeah.
Humanitarian stuff. I wouldn't really count it as humanitarian, but I think when we do trainings and stuff like that, like yeah, for sure in Europe, and the people definitely responded very well to that.
Yeah.
Because they're not used to people caring for them that way.
Right.
You know, and they're not people showing them, you know, how to do this, how to do that. So it's definitely a good feeling. In the same time, I don't know, you get much more benefit from it, you know, and you're teaching people how to be better providers so they can save their people.
Mm-hmm.
So you also work like when you were working with the Romanians, for example, you worked
Mhm.
with their medical staff as well. Teach
Um,
them some things or no?
Not necessarily their medical staff. There was one or two that I ran into, but the majority of it was just the infantry side.
Mm-hmm.
Their medical staff, we never really got to cooperate because we were there kind of taking care of our staff period. And a big thing that we did in Romania was that CLS, will teach Marines how to take care of people. But I didn't really, with the Romanians, I didn't really get hand to hand with the medical staff. In Norway, however, there was a lot of hand to hand with the medical staff.
Oh, interesting.
It was,
Yeah.
and their medicine is pretty on point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But and also seeing the different military medicals or infantry operate together, it's really rewarding when you see it, especially when the finishing exercise happens.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, that's pretty awesome.
Is it a pretty universal concept to have corpsmen at the infantry level across to other countries, or do they do it differently?
No,
Oh,
not at all. So yes and no. At a level that we're in, absolutely not. Because the last group I worked with was the Greek Marines, and very motivated people. They're just built tough, man. We call them Ford. Because they really are. They you know, I saw their MREs the first thing, and they were like this cardboard box with like a tuna can in it or a can of peas. I was like, well, you can have my MRE. It has Skittles in it. Enjoy it.
We got Skittles. And hot sauce.
Well, the first thing when I went to their medical providers,
but never together.
No.
It depends on who goes, but I always start with the living. Like, how are your Marines at home? How are they living in the barracks? How are they showering? How are they eating? You got to take care of all that stuff first before they go out.
Yeah.
You got to make sure they're well maintained. So I started inspecting their food, seeing where their food comes from, and all that stuff. And then we went to their medical, and when they saw me, they were like, "We don't really see doctors that do that." I'm like, "Well, I'm not a doctor." They're like, "But they call you doctor." I was like, "Well, yeah, Marines call me doctor, but I'm not really a doctor. I'm a corpsman." And 45 minutes later, trying to explain what that is.
That's funny.
And
you have tattoos.
yeah, they were like, "What?" And their medical capabilities are not the same, but they're interested to see it. But a funny joke, we went out on Livo,
Yeah.
and we saw some of their doctors, and they were at the bar. And I was like, "Oh, how was work?" They're like, "Oh, we're on duty. We're about to go back." I was like,
Oh,
"He was like, you guys don't do that?" I was like, "No. We don't drink when we're on duty.
Absolutely
We don't go
not.
out, actually. We live there."
oh.
And he was like, "Oh, no, we don't do that here. That's not. We have to eat this good food." And I was like, "Oh. Like, I wouldn't mind living in Greece."
How many times have we seen that, though? A million. I mean, we were laughing when I was doing the whole nonsense when we went over to Croatia, and we got troops in the field, and it's over Christmas time. And I walked into the head shed. We had all these different countries. It looked like the UN. Everybody's gone but the Americans and the Brits. I'm like, and this colonel's buddy of mine is a great guy. "Hey, sir, where the hell is everybody?" He goes, "They went home. It's Christmas." I started laughing because we're always busting each other's balls. He's a real funny guy. He goes, "I'm not kidding, Keith. They split. The French, the Norwegians, the Spanish, the Italians. They all just split.
Yeah.
We got guys in the field.
No sense
We're
of
doing
duty.
live ops."
Nah, they'll be fine.
I mean, people were getting shot. This wasn't like an exercise. And like they left. Oh, yeah, they left. So like you said, it's a different mentality. The shit we just assume everybody does.
Yeah.
But it was good. I really enjoyed all that stuff, and the fact that they always take care of us. They really do. I mean, they see what we want, and they go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, that's just because they want, either one, they want to learn what we learn, or two, they want Marines there. Period. We're not necessarily what the news makes us sound like we are. We're actually good people. We help people out. We're not savages. It's pretty good.
Well, you do have to kill a family member to get in the Marine Corps. Everybody knows, you know.
You drink Cobra blood.
That's where Corpsman comes in. He'll bring him back.
Don't bring him back.
He'll bring him back.
It's a graduation exercise. Save Grandpa Kelly. Otherwise, his son can't get in the Marine Corps.
That's hilarious. So you avoided ship time largely, except for maybe special
You
purposes.
say that word, avoid. I didn't avoid it. Actually, when I got my first opportunity to come when I come to division period, because you don't really know where you're going until you check into the MEF here. I called a couple of detailers. There was the USS Arlington and the USS Gunston Hall, which just happens all the Marines go on them anyways.
Yeah.
But we were on the Arlington, and I called, and I was like, hey, I'm petty officer this. I'm interested in to come to the ship because I want to be diverse. I want to go all around the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, hey, you don't have your ESWAS. If you're not familiar with the ESWAS, it's their warfare qualification for the ship. And I was like, well, I can't get that till I get to the ship. They're like, we need experienced guys. And I was like, well, I kind of need to come to the ship to get experience. So I'm like, you know what?
Go round.
A little catch-22 there.
Yeah.
I'm like, screw you.
Yeah.
And the Gunston Hall was the same thing. They're like, we need experience. I'm like, you know what? Screw you. I went to infantry. And a couple of years later, I was on the Gunston Hall with my unit.
Oh.
And they're like, you want to help us at sick call? Nope.
No.
I'm going to go to the gym with my Marines.
I
Sorry.
tried to get into this.
And you got your Marine badge, which maybe we should explain what that is too.
Oh, the Fleet Marine Force?
Yeah.
Yeah, so every corpsman and every part element of the MEF, either you're the aviation or the logistics or the infantry division, we all call for the FMF bin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a warfare device, and then to anybody, if you see a corpsman with it, just know that person is tactically proficient on anything Marine Corps related. I teach like just Monday or Tuesday, I had Marines that come to my, we have Marine instructors, and they were like, hey Doc, can you come teach Marine Corps organizational structure for me? Or can you come teach Marine Corps history for me? Like as mean as it sounds, and I'm sorry, devils, but I can teach the Marine Corps better than you guys. Just because those books are this big, and they just go in depth.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that probably corpsmen shouldn't know, but being a part of a Marine motorcycle club, I love just throwing that around all the time. So I'm like, do you know this? I didn't think so, buddy. But it's a long process. You got to shoot, you got to go to the field, you got to test out, you got to board.
Shoot, move, communicate, medicate.
Mm-hmm, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the board.
And the board.
You have to pass something to get the
You pass a
badge.
test, and then you got to do a murder board. They call it a murder board because you feel like you're getting murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's an oral board? That's
Yeah, it's like that.
asking you questions?
I think I had 3 murder boards. Each one was 12 to 13 hours each.
Wow.
I was just sitting there, and you're pretty much like, you can open the book and point, and I will literally just tell you that page.
Wow.
And it works. We all remember it. No matter how weird you are or how smart you are or not smart.
Yeah.
We all knew it hand to hand. I could literally spit out any Marine Corps mission to you right now, just like. And I knew I was ready because we were actually, a little funny story. We were in Romania. We were at a club, and I was dancing with this beautiful woman, and I was just looking down. And my first class time, he's like, "What? Are you good, bro?" I'm like, "To enhance the mobility, counter mobility, and survivability of the Marine." He was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Bro, the mission of combat engineering, bro. I keep forgetting it." And he was like, "Dude, just enjoy yourself." I was like, "No, I have to know it." And he was like, "You're ready, bro."
You're ready.
And I did. I killed the board. I really did. I had me and 2 other guys, and we killed the board. It was a good time.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a good time.
And that's so you get your device out of that.
Once you do, they
Your
treat you
picture.
different,
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because just like, this is Doc, but this is Doc.
Yeah.
Go to this guy, not that guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so awkward transitions aside, I think we beat that up pretty good. Why don't you tell us about your family background? 'Cause that's really interesting. Coming from a family that's migrated to the United States and then becoming a part of the military. Like, that's a unique pathway.
Yes and no. So we grew up in Alexandria, Egypt, or I grew up in Alexandria, Egypt. Or a small city around the Mediterranean. You would think you're in Greece more than Egypt anytime.
Yeah.
And I went to an American school there, American language school, which to me that's what America is like until you come to America. You're like, this is nothing like that. And my grandpa, he was a naval officer. He was equivalent to a captain in the Navy here.
Yeah.
He was a naval officer. And when I was young, he always used to take me and show me around, whatever. So the military was not something very new to us. Actually, one of our houses in Alexandria right now is on the 6th deck, and you get to see the whole military camp.
Oh, wow.
And my grandpa was in the Navy.
Can we send some folks over there to stay there for a little while?
Maybe Sal and I should go and check it out.
Take
Make
a
sure
couple
everything's
pictures.
okay.
Hey, you're not gonna see much. You're not gonna see much. A whole bunch of empty bases at 1200.
Is it from the barge, right?
But my grandpa was in the Navy. His brother was in the Air Force. His brother was in the Army. His brother was in the Air Force. So it was a huge military family. And their graduation, when they graduated the academy, they met my grandma and her sisters, and they all married each other pretty much.
That's like a movie.
Almost.
Right?
So 3 and 3. 1 and 1 just
big fat
decided to do
Egyptian
their own
wedding.
thing. Yeah, that's pretty much what it's at. You hit it right on the spot, bud. So it was crazy because we were the only people that lived in Alexandria because of the Mediterranean, and he had to be near the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Which all the aviation and the Army officers, they were in Cairo, in the capital.
Okay.
But we were super close. And my dad, when I was 8, he just there was the countries outside of the U.S. At a certain point back in the 90s and the early 2000s, this was a land of opportunity. This is where you come to make a living. It still is. It's a little different. And he just wanted to do it on his own. So my dad was still young. He left, and I stayed for 1 year by myself with my grandparents there. And then he remarried an Egyptian lady as well, and they came here together. And they, and I still admire them till today because from a guy that was living, we were very wealthy in Egypt, and living very wealthy to working at car washes and subways. It's just it's a humbling experience. So, but I think there's a lot of people that grew up here don't really understand that how much people eat the dirt to make it work.
Yeah.
And then when I came here, first year just getting in, it was tough. It was a tough environment to get into, especially even the language. I was in American language school, but even their English is different.
Yeah.
So it took some time for me to adjust,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't really feel I was really adjusted because I came here I was 9. I didn't feel like I was adjusted till about maybe 8th grade,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
some people call it junior high or whatever
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. That's when I knew, and then once I went to high school, then I knew that I knew college wasn't my thing. I didn't like to study. I was always out. I wanted to play football. I was never a troublemaker, never drinking or smoking or any of
This
that.
is a common theme. Well, that's why Sal and I are laughing. So many guys we have on the show who excel, and they're like, I went to college for 10 minutes, or I didn't want to go to college at all.
Yeah.
Like, fuck this, I want to do something exciting, and they end up, in the Marine Corps and the Navy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to school because the Navy pretty much said if you want to be competitive and get promoted,
Well,
then you go to school.
that's the other part we laugh about. You go in the military. I got bad news for you kids. You're going to schools.
Yeah.
Out the yin yang.
Out the yin yang.
But
Yeah.
it just wasn't for me, and I wanted to get away. Honestly, I have a lot of good friends that I grew up with, and they're very loyal people, very good dudes, and it's just there wasn't that much opportunities in South Florida. Like South Florida is a very expensive place. It's a very overpopulated place, and it's not the safest neighborhood to grow a family. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the whole area. So I just want to get the hell out of there, man.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I saw how my parents struggled, and I just didn't want to be like that. Nothing against them. I admire what they did. I just wanted to do my own thing, and I was going to do it by myself, and I was just. Regardless, and I've done a lot of stupid things on the way. I'm no angel. I've done a lot of stupid things that he particularly said, "Hey, don't do that." I'm that guy. Don't press that button. That's pretty
Oh,
much
wait, this
one. If you press this button, everything will fail. I'm that guy. But it was good, and I still have a very good close relationship with my father. We talk all the time.
Your dad's a great dude. I love your dad.
Yeah, he asks about you all the time. If I'm out alone, he was like, "Oh, be careful." I'm like, "Oh, I'm out with Recon." He was like, "Oh, Kelly, tell me." He likes you.
He's a good dude.
You're my getaway.
Yeah. And because I met him at the wedding, which is another funny story. So tell us about your wedding.
Yeah, so let me give you a little setup here. I just happen to know a little tidbit of information. Apparently, Keith married you, didn't he?
He did.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there it is.
He did.
That's my
Keith,
tidbit.
Keith married me. Keith re-enlisted me. Yeah, he's been pretty involved in my life. But I've been married for about what, like 3-4 years?
Yeah.
So he's
So
like,
tell us that story.
which one?
Let's start with the wedding. Like, first of all, how are you marrying people?
Because this all started.
That's a good point.
So we've talked about this on the show.
The Church of the Drunken Idiot? What is this?
Hey, it's a small church, but it's very well attended. But because Sal and I, as Showtime knows, are teachers. We taught for years, and I do a lot of public speaking. I've been on Fox News. I've done funerals, weddings. I've done all sorts of stuff. I've been public speaking forever. So Showtime says, "Hey, you want to marry me?" And we're drinking in the clubhouse, and I'm laughing.
He's like, I'm not gay, Showtime, sorry. Also,
Yeah.
I'm already married.
And Christy's right here. But I'm like, yeah, sure, but you may notice I'm just like room temperature Catholic. I can't marry. And he's like, well, I'll get married before, and you just like say the words. And I'm like,
For
can we
ceremony.
do that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah,
You can do whatever you want.
It's
your wedding, man.
No, seriously, this is my wedding. You do whatever the hell we want. I'm
She's
like,
okay with it? Everything is gonna flow?
That's the next question. Was Jackie good with this? She goes, yeah.
Huh.
Okay. So off we go down to Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah.
and
We got married. We got married and we had a nice little biker wedding. And yeah, I don't know what it is about him. My family love him. It's like he got that thing when he talks. You're like, oh, he's my dad now. And I'm just gonna listen.
He's everybody's dad.
But it was good. You know, it was a nice wedding.
we all
Yeah.
had suits on, looked nice.
Suits and bikes. You know, that's what it's all about.
He's in a tuxedo on a Harley. It's pretty
Right.
cool.
With a cut?
No,
No,
that was a no. She was like, no cuts. This is my wedding. I was like, good to
that
go.
was a hard no.
No, it's okay.
That's fair.
I'll work. It's whatever she wanted. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, and then retired guys, you can re-enlist people, as you know.
Sure.
And so I've done that for several guys in the club, re-enlisted guys. I retired.
Which was a pain, by the way. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Well, because your
Getting-
admin people keep screwing it up.
Yeah, whatever. Like I'm like Major Keith Kelly, retired. They were like, oh well, they keep coming back saying, who is this guy? I'm like, it says it in his name, Major Keith Kelly, retired USMC. It took. Remember, it was the last week. He was like, am I doing this, bro? Or am I not doing this? I'm like, I don't even know, bro. Like I don't know if I'm re-enlisting yet.
Because
And finally, like 3
his
days
admin
before.
kept screwing up the paper.
And 3 days before, they were like, you're good. I'm like, all right, thank God. Come on.
Because on a Marine base, like, because I did with Eddie and
It was
Snap,
much easier. Yeah.
and I retired Snap, which was being a retiring officer is pretty cool too.
But being in the Navy and having a Marine Corps officer re-enlist you, I guess it's not as easy as it would be like a naval officer. But it ended up being working. But
It's
like,
legal. It works fine.
It is.
CO was fine with it.
well, he did, and well, I did talk to the CEO, and he was like, "Worst come to worst, you just have him re-enlist you, and I'll sign the freaking thing."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, all right, I gotta go." And they loved having them. They asked me about you all the time still. They do.
America's dad. America's dad, Keith Kelly.
If they only knew the truth.
Pastor in the Church of the Drunken Idiot.
Hey, sister. We're going to worship this afternoon, as a matter of fact.
I think it's about time for worship then.
Yeah, we moved the services around a bit.
Well, Mo, it's really good to have you, man.
Well, almost absolutely.
We appreciate it.
I love all this, man. I watched your show a couple times, and you guys are hilarious, man. I
Thanks,
love it.
brother.
Of course,
Appreciate it, man.
Sure, I'll see you tomorrow or something.
Yeah.